Tuesday, the 30th of December. January's just around the corner. New year, but the same old United. So look, get into this community. I will always say this: we're not the smallest, we may not be the biggest, but we are certainly the best. Now, I'm very lucky to have this community. I do not take it for granted. So get into this community, get in here with your chat. The only thing that we ask is be respectful to the community, be respectful to me, be respectful to yourselves. Otherwise the ban hammer comes out. We don't like to do it, but we absolutely will, for the integrity of the channel. Second thing to say is I am not the dictator of this chat. I really do respect your views and opinions. That's why I read out your comments, as many as I can. I won't read them all out, depending on how, what's the word, how not legitimate, but how, if there's any rudeness in there. Obviously I can't read them out. So look, I do read all of your Bobby's in the house, Scott the Banhammer, he truly is. So I do really read out the comments. Look, just because I'm here, I'm the one that talks. This truly is the community. I am just part of this. I try to give you your say. If sometimes I sort of come back in it, I'm not disrespecting your opinion. It just starts off conversation. It just starts off things in my own brain, and we discuss it on here. So look, get in there. We don't mind the banter. We absolutely do not mind the banter. You don't have to be a United supporter to come onto the channel. I will try to answer some of the questions that are sort of out there, but I won't focus too much on other clubs' questions and views. But look, I just put it in there, and if we answer it, we will. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. So look, just get in there with the chats. Look, let me know what you've seen today. There are some things that are coming out there that I've seen that are coming around to my opinion. Again, I get sent stuff all of the time. I do look at thumbnails, and the interesting stuff is that there are channels now who we've been consistent on some of the things that we say on here. Watch your thumbnail with McSauce, and I'm going to give you. I will go through that straight away because I want to dispel that myth. There have been reports out there about him coming back to the club, and I basically want to put that to bed. You're going to get it. You're going to get. I absolutely refrained from the shock rumor that Mctominay wants to come back. So look, I'm going to dispel that myth. And I think that's probably where I'm going to start, because I think for me the main thing today is basically talk about why I think Amorin will now go to a 4-3-3. You can give me your opinions as to why you think he has to go to a 4-3-3, but I've got my sort of opinions and views on that. So look, what is coming out today is McSauce got Mctominay on the radar, and this is coming from Italian sources. And look, we're going to get spin. I don't think this is necessarily coming out from the club. This is the time of year where people want you to read their stuff. People want you to look at their just views, basically. But I wanted to put that to bed. Once it's been put to bed, I'm not going to discuss it again, because that's exactly what we're doing here. Paul, Swansea Villa, says hello from Cardigan, Wales. Hello, Paul. My I know you're not a fellow Welshman, but to Wales, look, I'm Welsh, so absolute legend. Ryan says, I don't think the formation is a problem. It's the players' application to the system, like basic principles not being applied. Ryan, I agree completely. If you've listened to this channel for quite some time, my viewpoint has always been this. And the Grimsby game, for me, epitomised it. I don't believe it is the system. I don't believe it is Amorin. I don't believe it is the tactics. It is these low IQ players, and I will give you the caveat to that. It's these low IQ players, these down tool players, these players turn it on and off. I still don't. These are players that I don't trust. So I don't believe it's Amorin. I don't believe. Look, there are things, I criticised him last night, but fundamentally, you hire a coach that plays a back three. You give him players who've sacked multiple managers, who have down tools consistently. So, in principle, I don't think it is the coach. Now, look, we can talk about the things that he does in game. I do think Amorin has got a lot to learn. But look, let's take that out of that for this particular question, or this particular observation here. There are reasons, and I will go into that as to why I think he will change to a 4-3-3 out of necessity, out of what I think he knows will happen. But I do fundamentally agree with that, and I've been saying that all season. I think right now we have to switch to a 4-3-3 because it's what accommodates these players. We know what these players are. These are limited players. And look, the caveat to that for me is that you bring in a mishmash of players. As much as Amorin's got them sort of into a team here, to be fair to the players, they're not 3-3-2-1-3-4-3-3-4 1-2-7-9. They are not those sorts of players. They are very simple, very limited players. So to be fair to those players, we know what they are. Very, very limited players. But look, I completely agree with that statement. Paul says, with a massive amount of social media available and transfer window opening, let the rumours start. 95% of rubbish. Agents, the media, publish gossip, and it's a circus. And look, there are YouTube channels out there that will feed this, right? I am not one of those. I will give you my opinion. I'm very, very consistent. Stubborn could be a word to use as well. But I just try to look at the both sides, and I will give you the caveat to both. So, Mctominay, I'm going to put this to bed right now. Wasn't named. No, Paul, mate, I don't think it was, my friend. I don't think it was at all. I maybe I talk too much, but I don't necessarily. But there are so many YouTube channels out there that are really, really good, right? I'm not saying that mine is, but I'm just saying, ours is. But the problem is that there are bigger ones out there who will dine out. They dined out on the some menu stuff for an age. Videos day after day after day about Semenyo. It's consistent on here that Semenyo was never going to come. Now, I didn't make a video for a long while about the Semenyo stuff until I knew he wasn't going to come. And lo and behold, it's true. And look, there are. I'm not going to say too much on here just yet. But there's certain things that I know. I get sent stuff. When a channel gets to a certain size, you do get people who contact you, and sometimes this is why I'm very, very adamant on these views, is because there are certain things that I now know, and there are certain people that tell me stuff, and that's what happens. Ryan says, why do players come to United, do shit, and then go elsewhere on loan and become the players we thought we were buying? And Ryan again, Mctominay. I think to basically go into Mctominay, and I think that feeds into the conversation, is that I think the problem is, I think there are a couple of issues, and Ryan, give me your opinion on this. I really want to know. Think about this, right? Not only do we have a toxic ownership, we now got Ineos who have no idea what, and exactly right. Rasmus, Anthony, I will the Anthony stuff. I will go on to that, and I will try to give the both sides of this. Toxicity from within the Glazers. They've basically hired Murta Arnold, who had no idea about this club, who went for the shirt selling signings without understanding the person, without understanding the history of that person. And Ryan, mate, as well. Ryan, there's a video that I did, and Bobby, look, these are, look, bringing, look, guys, this conversation right now is brilliant, right? And I think this is going to feed it into it, and this is why I love this community, because your comments right now are fantastic, right? So, Ryan, I did a video that about a week ago, right, which because it doesn't fit into the transfer stuff, this was missed, right? One of the things that I said, I think it's called, and in fact, Ryan, I did a whole video as to why Ineos, or why Sir Jim cannot afford to buy the club. One of the things that I said is, even though Ineos valued, I think, £32 billion, there is I can't remember what it's called, but basically their rating has gone down from a AAA to, I think it's a B, right? So there is something at the moment within Ineos that stops them from, basically, there's an £8 billion loan, which basically means that in terms of cash wise, they're not great right now. So they can't really spend. So there's I can't remember what it's called, but there's a thing that's on there which is basically a warning as to the cash. Now, we spoke about this, which was missed. So Ineos have a business that is in Scotland, and what's been reported is, over the last 3 years, they have had 70 million of taxpayers' cash. So basically, even though Sir Jim is worth billions of pounds, even though Ineos are worth 32 billion pounds, they've gone to the government on the proviso is that they provide jobs. It's integral to the industry of the country. The taxpayer has bailed it out. Then over the last year, they basically got 150 million pounds of funding from grants. So Ineos, and the whole point of this is Ineos don't have the cash. Sir Jim won't even put in money from his own pocket to save the business that he built. So this is why Ineos are in the position that they're in. And look, I will go back over it, Ryan, as well. So I'll go back up to the list. So to go back to Ryan's statement, is to why do players come here and not fulfill their potential? We've had multiple coaches who have basically brought in different players. They've not looked at them as players. They've not looked at their lifestyle. They've not looked at the attitude of the players. And what we've done is we've gone and bought shirt selling. If you look at it, Sancho was there. Anthony. Now look, I know you've mentioned below an Anthony signing. Look, Anthony is one. Well, but I don't agree that he's gone away and become this amazing player. Look, this is not a criticism of the Spanish league. And look, you can have your opinion. My opinion is that Anthony was not good enough for the Premier League. He may be doing well in Spain, but you've got to look at the context of the signing. Anthony, if Anthony was bought for 50 million, fine. With the amount of money that was paid, his manager, his own coach, Ten Hag, didn't play him. So look, Antony, for me, you can argue and you can have the opinion. My opinion is not going to be the same. Antony's one of those ones where I think that he wasn't right for the Premier League. I think he's got a different style. And look, he may be doing fantastically in Spain, but my opinion on this is I don't think he was good enough. Paul says, I'm sick of a lot of the Villa channels, gossip and bullshit. I do agree. Ryan says, Rasmus, Antony and Scott McTominay. Now, Scott McTominay, I take the point on that one. I think Scott McTominay, there's a reason why managers, they rated him. Unfortunately for Scott, they played him in the wrong position. I don't know why, but they did. Now he's gone to Napoli, and look, Scott McTominay, the engine on him is fantastic. I think as a footballer, I think he's limited in some respects, but the reason why he's doing well is the Italian league, let's be fair, a slower league, but Scott McTominay's been played in a position that suits him. I think he's doing fantastically well. Rasmus, and this is another reason why we failed, is we've got these mishmash of players. If you look at Sancho, at Rashford, and we'll come on to him briefly as well, is that we had players who didn't want to feed him. We got players, and we were never a team. We were a collective of players who wanted to play for themselves. No intention of playing as a team, no intention of doing the correct things, no intention of passing to the striker. And it was a position as a striker, one putting crosses into the box. Everybody wanted to be the star man. Now, Rasmus, we failed Rasmus, and I'm not going to shy away from that. Do I think that Rasmus is an amazing striker right now? He's still learning. But the point is, Rasmus is in a team that will want to feed him. He's learning a lot. And I've always said this, if you give Rasmus the right platform and the time, he could be a good striker, but people forget that he's a young guy. Not every striker is like a Haaland. So look, I take the point on Rasmus, a Scott McTominay. Antony, I think that's opinion based, but you can argue. You can argue that. Ryan says the list goes on. Ineos are about to go bankrupt. Even Rashford, says Bobby, to some degree. Antony isn't doing as much in Spain as Haaland scored 6 goals this season, hardly setting the world on fire. What's Sancho doing now? What's Rashford doing now? Says Ryan Goodwin. Ryan Arrowsmith says Rasmus has 9 in 13. Rashford been amazing. Let's be honest. Now, Ryan Arrowsmith, look, I think has Rashford been doing amazing? I think that's up for debate. I think Rashford has been doing well. My opinion, and look, I'm not going to disrespect your opinion. If you think Rashford has been doing amazing, I got no issue at all with that. I don't think Rashford has been amazing. What I do admire about him, though, he's gone to a team whereby there's a certain standard, right? And he's wanted to test himself. And he's gone away. He wanted his move. And I think Rashford has made a good stamp of it. I think Rashford has showed what a limited player he is. And I do think he is a limited player. But Barcelona utilise him, right? I think he's held his own. But, Ryan, Barcelona, the rhetoric is Barcelona are going to send him back. So, look, if Rashford was that amazing player, no, so Barcelona are quibbling over the fact that £25 million. If Rashford was an amazing player, and this is all I'm going to say, is if Rashford was an amazing player, as you're saying that, and that's a valid opinion to you, is Barcelona wouldn't even think about twice about paying that price. So look, I think Rashford has done well. He's got back into the England team. Do I think he's been amazing? I wouldn't go as far as that, but I think Rashford has done well, and I admire what he's done. But he says Rashford has been dumbed down, so Barca don't have to pay him 30 million. Chill places. Hey JB, Sancho has not looked bad when playing either. He's just come back from injury. It's such a myth these players leave and do amazing. Look, I think with these players, I think it is a personal preference and a personal view where you think these players have done well. I have my opinion, and my opinion is you've got to look at context. You've got to look at the context. You can shift it around. I will be consistent on this. I think these players have gone away to teams where they will play. They've gone to teams that will play them. But as Tulip Play says there, if you listen to an Ericsson, right? Ericsson said it, he did an interview. If you listen to what came out from Whitwell about these players moaning about the ex-players, these players can't handle the badge. You know, if you listen to what Christian said, he said, "Oh, the badge is too heavy." You know, these players, and I will always maintain this: low mentality, low IQ players who cannot handle criticism. You can argue Mctominay, I think, is probably outside of that. Rasmus to a certain degree, but again, very, very, very heavy on the shirt. I think the rest of these players couldn't handle it. I think the rest of these players find this badge difficult to handle, and it's all there for you. I think you can ignore that. I think the good thing about football is you can base your opinions on whatever you like. I base my personal views on everything that's out there, and if you look at what these things say, and if you piece it together, these players, I think this is a combination of a toxic club with the player power, but also these players can't handle the badge, and this has come out time and time again. So I think this is a toxic mess. I've always thought the reason why players don't do particularly well here is because we sign the wrong players. We've been signing the wrong players for 13 years. And that's proven by what we've become. Bobby Stiet, the remix is never as good as the original. Kahansen says, hello Kahansen. Vardy got player of the month in Serie A. Modric is doing class there. That says it all about Serie A. People acting like McTominay is Pirlo. And again, guys, getting your opinions. Look, I'm not going to come too much on that view. These I do share some of these views, but I think it's important that you guys get in your views. Everyone looks good in Serie A, slower pace of the game. And look, Chilip, I do agree with that. I think people forget. I think we're very fortunate how good the Premier League is. I think because we're so dumbed down, because we're so used to how good the Premier League is in terms of, I'm not saying the Spanish League or the Italian League don't have 2 or 3 good teams. The level consistently throughout the league is not great. The Premier League, from top to bottom, other than Wolves, is competitive. And the demonstration of that is that if you look at the Premier League this season, it is ridiculously competitive. Now, other leagues, I would probably argue, are more competitive. Are more of a technical standpoint. They played football in a different way to us, and I think the technical football at times shows pace, power, athleticism, and being an athlete. The Premier League, I think this is why players go to a different league and become better from the Premier League. I think it's easier to transition from the Premier League to a different league. You look at a Rashford; he's transitioned well. Rasmus has transitioned well. De Bruyne has transitioned well. Mctominay has transitioned well. But then if you look at players who come in from different leagues, you look at Scamacca, you look at Wirtz. Wirtz to a degree has had issues as well. This league is littered with players who come from a different league and they struggle. So I think you can look at it. I think with this debate, I think that there is evidence there to suggest that the Premier League, I think, is a better standard, but that doesn't mean to say that different leagues are not don't have their attributes. John McQueen says the players that are out on loan are not coming back. We need to concentrate our attentions on here and now and the upcoming window. We desperately need to. I do agree with you, John. Agreed. Hamid says, I think, hi. Now, Rasmus is crap. He couldn't even hold the ball up. Grace, legend of this chat. Hope you're doing extremely well. Mr. Goodwin, you sound fairly clueless. Are you actually a United fan? Barca have 0 pennies. Barca are skint. I can't read that. Barca are skint. Just their league has a set of balls and don't find clubs owned by billionaires like pennies when it comes to breaking the rules. Barca has had to pull levers. Barcelona have pulled more levers than a train operator. Hit the like button, people. Exactly. If you hit the like button, then tonight we will win 7-0. That's a fact. They need to follow the league rules. They still fill a 100,000 seat stadium every week. Merchandise, stadium tours, sponsorship. It's a worldwide brand. I've actually been to the new camp as well, and that was when it was the old one. Brilliant. I'm top of the league. FC Barcelona's financial difficulties stem from a combination of historic fiscal mismanagement and enormous pre-pandemic wage bill, the impact of COVID, and the controversial sale of future assets. Not bad for being skint. Mark Harris, legend of the chat. If Amorin was that good, why did he fail to get jobs at Liverpool and West Ham? I see mid-table United bigger and better than that. Mark Harris, legend of this chat, sir. Hope you're doing extremely well. Mark, you make some good points. Why did United pull the trigger? We will discuss that when we get into the 4-3-3, because I think that's an interesting debate, Mark, and I think you make some interesting comments. Season's greeting to the UDC massive Dark DJ Dark. I hope you're doing extremely well. So look, McTominay, I just want to put this to bed. Whatever we think of him, I'm going to take that out for a second. There were several reports that McTominay want to come back. Let's be categorically clear on this, and I'm going to give my opinion, and I'm never going to mention it again. Napoli do not want to sell. Let's be clear. He is adored there. Ballon d'Or nomination, doing extremely well there. Why would Scott McTominay come back to this club? Now, also one of the fundamental parts to this, Napoli would want £70 million. It's not happening. £70 million is not going to happen. So you're going to hear channels over the next couple of days reporting on this. It's all bullshit. It's all crap. This is clickbait, right? I'm putting this out there now. Scott McTominay is not coming back. This club also has a rule in place whereby we don't sign players over 25. I think Scott McTominay's 27, 28 now. there is a litany of reasons. Grace says, would you sign Edison? Yes, I would. I think anything right now is better than nothing. I think the price for him as well, Grace, I think has come down from 70 million to 40 million. I would sign him 100%. So Mctominay is not coming. 70 million pounds. Naples, he's adored. We treated him like shit. Mctominay is not coming. So let's just dispel that now. Zane says, Sir said your age is 44. No, I am 42. So it's mean you belong from a pre-generation. You really belong from a strong... Yeah, look. I'm 42. I'm very, very fortunate from the generation that I'm from was extremely strong. And I feel sad that a lot of you guys have not seen a Premier League United side that was amazing. So look, McTominay is not coming. So let's put that to bed. Don't believe all of the clickbait crap. I'm not going to put him on a thumbnail again. He's not coming. Next one I wanted to mention is Manu Koné. So again, I'm not really going to mention this until there is more concrete stuff out on this as well. Before I do that, let me read some more of the chat. Scott living his best life. Good luck to the lad. I don't know where Scott is. I do hope he's okay. Can we sell Shesko, says Ryan. Look, I'll give you my opinion on Shesko. Shesko needs time, right? You know, all this fan base wants the youth to play, right? Wants young players to start, right? Why do we not give time to players? Like Shesko is 22, right? He's by no means a youth player, but he's by no means an experienced player. The price tag isn't his fault. I've seen some of the stuff that he's done, and I'm quite happy with the things that he does. I think he offers us a different thing. Look, I think Shesko will become better in time. I just want this. Look, we're asking this. We're trying to be a different club, right? If we want to be up there in the top 4, 5, 6. We need to give these players time. Now, look, there are certain players I want removed from the club. I'm not talking about those players. I'm talking about these new players that come in. You know, Ugarte is his second or third year, right? People have had 10 years here. I'm not talking about those players. I'm talking about these young players that we bring in. You look at an Ahmad. And Ahmad to me is probably a prime example of who went to Rangers, Sunderland. He wasn't getting a game, right? We gave him time. You look at what he's become. I think he is a fantastic player. Shesko's only been here for 4 or 5 months. Give him time. We need to be different. We need to give the manager time. We need to give players time. Well, look, I am managering, whether that's Amorin or not. It could be whatever coach it is, but Shesko needs time, and I think we owe it to ourselves. I think we owe it to the player to give him time. But look, that's your view. I'm not going to come back on that view. So Jack says, here's a thought to process. The class of 92, look how much success they had when they weren't signing players for 50 to 100 million. Agreed. But the sad thing is, and I think it is a myth, we don't have those players. We were very, very lucky. Look, there are certain things, in my view, that happen once every 40, 50 years, right? The class of 92 has not been replicated anywhere else. If it was that easy to do, Chelsea would do it. Arsenal would do it. We basically brought through 7 or 8 players. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. But look, I absolutely, Sir Jackie, if it was possible to do it, I'm all for it. But it's rare. I don't think it's happened other than the Busby Babes. In terms of us, I don't remember another team, even in the last 30 years, to bring through a crop of players from the youth and pretty much bring them through at the same time. So whilst I would love that to happen, if we even get 1 or 2 players from the youth to consistently play in this team, it is difficult. Grace says he's Ugarte, but can actually pass and carry the ball, but need a 6 in the summer. DJ says, I'm not liking we are still looking at Baleba. He's not exactly setting the world on fire for Cameroon. We are looking at him, and I pretty much 95% think that we will sign him, because I think what we've got to understand is, have we changed as a club? No. Baleba is the... Grace says JB is from the 1920s. I'm a fossil. You know, I'm a man from a different time. The reason why we will go for that player is because we know that he will come to us. We're going to go for players who we know want us. This is why an Anderson will be difficult to do. A Wharton will be almost... Those players are impossible to do because we are inept. Transfer-wise, we are absolutely inept. Hussein says, who wants to win in a slot in a fight between Zlatan and Ramos? Zlatan will kick his ass all day long, mate. Fans don't deserve signings; they turn on players quickly. And Grace, I agree with that. I do agree. Ryan says, I hate this. They need time, quality players, shouldn't. And Ryan, mate, Ryan, I agree with that statement. I agree with that statement. Cunha, for example, look, I want to sign more Cunhas. And this is why, Ryan, we are trying to... I think this is why the rhetoric is we need to sign Premier League proven players. Because, Ryan, you're right. We need a mixture of ready-to-go players. I agree with you so much. We need a mixture, in my view, of ready-to-go players. Once you've got a team of Premier League proven players, then that's when you can bring in a Shesko. Look, I like a Shesko, but I wanted to bring in a Watkins. I wanted to bring in more of a Premier League proven player, Premier League proven guy who can score goals to supplement a Shesko. And Ryan, you're right. This is why Luke Shaw plays. You know, players like Heaven now are starting to, you know, he's going to take a little bit more time. But look, I am with you completely. We need more Premier League proven players ready to go. But we also need a mixture of youth to supplement that. But the problem is that the difference again between the class of 92 and what we've got now is they had a team full of Premier League players. And Ryan, you're correct. If we bring in a prospect player or we bring in a risk, it's less of a risk if you've got those ready-to-go players. Football players shouldn't need time to play football, in my personal opinion. Sir Jackie, agreed. I don't think at times it's a case of they don't know how to play football. I think the pace of the Premier League shocks people. I think that the Premier League, the pace of the Premier League shocks people. I think that's probably what the issue is. And look, you can argue the Premier League is not the best league in the world, right? It really does depend on what your opinion is. But what can't be denied is the Premier League is a different style of football. Is it because they struggle to come into the league and they find the physical ability different? DJ says, I agree, he needs to learn how to play with Latin American stars. Grace says, Liverpool bought Ekitike for 85 after one good season for Frankfurt, so signing Šeško for 65, who has been better for longer before he signed for us, and that is true. He's going back to a 3-4-3 for a fact. Blaber is coming in as well as a Gomez, so Jim is giving him 3 years. When Blaber comes, niche fan, legend, these are not a January signing, mate. If you now follow, and I've seen some of the thumbnails, the rhetoric coming out now is United won't sign any midfielders in the window. There's a reason why I say that, and like I've always maintained, and I'm going to maintain this view for a reason, and I will disclose the reason at the end of the window. I'm of the opinion, based on certain stuff, that United will only sign a Gallagher on loan until the end of the season, and they will not look to do business in the market. And there are numerous reasons why, most of them a financial reason, but also the mindset within the club. I've answered that one. My work couldn't employ a guy, paying wages for 3 years, and then expect him to be the perfect employee. We were at our peak under Fergie, and he was, Ryan. I've read. Look, I've gone back, and I've been meaning to read it for years and years and years. Ferguson's book. Go and read it. It is fascinating. Go and listen to the man and what he says. It is worlds apart, different apart. And I'm not talking about the era. I'm just talking about the mindset of the man. Go and read his book, because it will probably depress you even more. Fergie used to relish going toe-to-toe with big clubs for players. Ahmed has become our right wing. Giggs, can we get Ryan Giggs on the left too? Šeško is a complete flop. Vardy is the only English player to win Serie A. Look, niche fan. Look, I respect your views. I disagree. I want to get away from calling these players flops, because I think that is the wrong word. I think that is and look, niche fan, I'm not calling what I'm about to say is, I'm not aiming that at you, by the way. I think it's so narrow-minded. I think it's disrespectful to the player, 22 years old, who's just come into this league, to call him a flop. I disagree. Niche, he's only been here really September, October, November, December. The lad's been here for 4 months. Gyökeres, right? Gyökeres, more experience, 6 years on him. Gyökeres has not set the world on fire. Isak, and you can argue injuries, yes. But Isak, 125 million? We're calling these players flops. But he's only been here for 4 months. I just disagree. And if Vardy was so good, why did Leicester go down? Why didn't Vardy score 30 goals a season in his final season? So look, I'm not adverse to bringing Vardy in as a second striker, Vardy in as a foil and a teacher to a Šeško, but no. Sorry, guys. We shouldn't be signing 100 million, buy 2 players for 50. 1 player isn't going to transfer the midfield. Agreed, Grace. I think we need to sign squad players. Neves, let's pivot. Let's pivot to him. He's on my list of things to talk about. Neves El Halal is not going to sign a new deal. So he's a free agent at the end of the year. He's available for millions. I think he's £15 million now, right? Why aren't we pushing for that deal? I know why they're not, because he's 28 and he's probably going to want 200k. I think we could probably convince him to maybe drop that wage to 170 million. Look, we're paying 250k to Mason Mount. I agree with the structure that we've got in place because we don't want to overpay for players. But we have this rule now that we don't buy players over 28, right? Neves, 28, he's better than what we've got. Look, offer him 170 million pounds. I would go all out to do that deal. 15 million pounds for a proven Premier League player. And I think at times we are snobs. Neves would be a fantastic squad player. I think this is what people miss. We want these 70 million pound players, these 80 million pound players. Neves is there to do. And look, what is coming out here is that Neves wants to join Real Madrid. Real Madrid, 15 million pounds will absolutely snap their hand off. Getting a Premier League proven player, 15 million pounds, is not a risk. It's not a risk, and I question, look, whether or not he doesn't fit into the structure. At times there are opportunities to go and sign a player. Look, if you sign him for 15 million, you can afford to give him 200k a week. 200k a week is what? It's probably about 9.6 million pounds a year. If you add that onto the deal, 2 or 3 year deal, that's what, 50 million pounds. Like, it's a bargain. Like, even if you give him 200 grand a week, 15 million pounds for a Premier League proven player, stick him on a 3 year deal. It's worth it. But United are so blinkered right now that they don't know what's going on. So look, Neves as well. Look, I'm not really going to talk about him again. I'm going through the list of players. I try to only do a transfer news once, but look, when there's extra stuff to come out, I do not bait this out. I do not clickbait it out for weeks and weeks and weeks. Look, Mctominay is not coming. 70 million pounds is not coming. Neves, 50 million pounds. We should be all over this deal, but we will not do the deal. So Neves, I don't think will come either. Now, Manu Koné, let's talk about that. I will go through some of the chats. Kone is next on the list. JB, we sold Glimmer without giving him a chance to Chelsea. He managed to get a game, and now look at him. We sold him for 500k. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Absolutely. Again, there are certain players that I think clubs and players are snobs on, right? Sometimes you need a good squad player, and Glimmer is showing, he's a good squad player. Ryan says the class of 92 was just a fluke, really. You never do that in many great players at the same time. Exactly. Amorin laughing his head off. United actually employed me. I want Neymar, and he's going to be electric for us. Niche fan, mate. Niche fan says, I respect you so much, but I don't see it with and look, Niche fan, it's no, I know we respect each other's views. No, I respect the view. The Neymar one, mate, I respect the view that you want a player like that. I disagree, mate. I respect you. I respect the opinion, but I disagree. What is a Neymar who's 32 years old? Electric, mate. The guy can barely stay fit. Neymar's going to want 250k. Neymar to me represents the deals that we've always done. It's an absolute 0 for me. Ryan says I don't rate Šeško either. He's no upgrade on Højlund. All I'm going to say on Šeško, give him time. Give Šeško time. You know, he's been here for 4 months. Højlund got 2 years. In my opinion, and in the way that my brain works is we want instant impact, right? I blame the club. If the club wanted instant impact, they would have got a Premier League proven player. We are paying to take a chance. We need to give Šeško time. I think if we give Šeško time, I think, look, he could go the way of a Rasmus Højlund. At that time, let's give him at least 2 years. He could well be, but we don't know. Let's give him a chance. Scott says, yes, JB. Hello, Scott. I hope you're doing extremely well. Class of 92, I think, again, Fergie had a big part to play. I've answered that. Hussein, stop spamming the chat. Belieber is amazing at AFCON. People actually thought he was playing badly. He's down tools at Brighton. With all the players unavailable tonight, how do you see the game going? John, I think we should win the game, mate. I don't care. We need to win the game. Like, when I say I don't care, I mean I don't care about like how many players are out. We should win this game. There's no excuses tonight for me. We have to win this game. I don't want to hear any complaint from the players. I don't want to hear any complaint from the manager tonight. I do not want to see turgid defensiveness. What I want to see tonight is I want to see us go for it. I want us to put Wolves to the sword. I want to beat Wolves. And look, I respect Wolves. Completely respect Wolves. But we have to go for them. There is no excuse. Could we have had Vardy on a free and 40k a week? Can't believe we didn't sign him. We could have, but we didn't. I wasn't adverse to that signing. The reason why I wouldn't be adverse to that signing is because I'd want Jamie Vardy to come in and teach Šeško, teach OB. I don't want him because I think he's a good player. I want him for that experience, you know. And if you could get him on 40k a week for a free, yes, but not as a starting striker. Get Gallagher, Neves, that engine in the midfield would be class. And John, I'm with you completely. Gallagher and Neves, I think, would push us. I think those two players would push us towards a top 5. Then I would change my mind from an 8 to 10 finish. If we got those two players, I would then demand a top 5 to 7 finish. Because I think with those players, John, I think you are spot on. I think as a fan base, I think we're snobs. I think we would see those signings and go, oh, you know, they're not our top choices. We're not that club right now. Let you do that. Grace says, which midfielder is the right midfielder to bring in? Baleba is going to cost and still very raw. Can he handle the pressure? And Grace, it's true. He's down to look. If you can get him for around about 50 to 60 million, I think it's worth a look at, right? But the thing that concerns me is the mentality. I don't care if a player wants to come to us. Couldn't care less. I want players who are not part of this toxicity. Their mentality is whoever they play for it's their job. I would much rather the Labour this season be absolutely out of this world and get him for 80 million, rather than pay 60 million pounds for an unproven this season player who has down tools. I don't want a player who's down tools. I don't want a player who's forcing a move. I want a player who's peak. Brighton haven't named the price, but there is a price in and around like 105. The reason for that is Brighton think that they were going to get a bidding war. If Baleba is still playing extremely well and said that he wanted to come to us, Brighton would have to lower that price, because all he would say is, I'm not going to sign a contract. Doesn't mean he down tools. I don't want an Isak. I don't want a player that down tools. You can do it in a respectful way. I don't want to burn the bridges and look like that team who will get players at any cost and they don't care, because it can backfire. So I think that if Baleba still had been one of the best in the league, I think we still could have got him for around 80 million pounds, which for a first-class player who I think would have been a transformative player if he'd still been the player of the previous season, fine. But do we need to keep taking risks on these low mentality players? And Grace, you're right. Can Baleba handle the pressure of the badge? Now I don't know. I'm happy with Heaven, and don't forget he was Amorin's first signing. Whoever, and that wasn't Amorin, whoever identified Heaven, get him on scouting players, because that, as a piece of business, I reckon was probably one of the best pieces of business that we've done in the last 10 years. Marcus is focusing on getting replacements for Dalot and Bruno. They're not the future, but Amorim loves his Portuguese friends. Portuguese friends! Oh, Portuguese friends! Oh, friends! And Mark agreed. That is where Amorim, and we'll talk about that next. Amorim, we'll get onto that chat. If you get headhunted by a company to do your job for them, they're going to expect you to perform from. They won't. And Ryan, look, mate, I don't disagree. This is a completely different sport. This is a completely different world, right? The problem is United didn't buy this player because he was going to score 25 goals this season. But that wasn't communicated to the fans, right? I think we would have accepted Šeško more if United had the bollocks to go and get another more experienced player. So if we'd have gone and got, you can argue, a Mateta, a Wizza, I know he's not been great, a Vardy. I think if we'd have been ambitious and got two centre forwards, I think we would have been more accepting of Erasmus, because we would have known what Ineos were trying to do. But the problem is Ineos did not explain what Šeško is. It does. That's why Haaland and Xerxes were always 1 second behind our best defenders. Footballers with their pay packet should be no different. Ryan, in an ideal world, agree with you. I agree with you completely. Footballers should be able to be sacked, right? I do not disagree with you. It should work in all walks of life. It should work. Whether I like it, I agree with you. Whether I like that or not, I have to accept they live by different rules and standards. Being at football is basically the only job that's near impossible to be sacked for a shy employee. Find another job in a world. Exactly. If you can't get into the Madrid team, how can you fit into us? Totally disagree about the Gallagher signing. Again, respect that opinion. You know, there are players that don't want that. There are people that don't want him. I think a Gallagher signing will not be super transformative. I think it will add another body. I think he would be a good squad player. Nikarutsu, legend of the channel. Afternoon, JB, looking drop dead gorgeous as always. Mate, you're too kind to me. Legend, and I thank you. Vigo says, go United, and says, hello. Digsby's Dinner says, I think the Premier League needs to have a Christmas break. Let the players rest and spend time with their families. Did you agree? I do agree. I do agree. Actually, I think we should have a winter break. If you look at this season, there's going to be a World Cup. Some of these players are going to be playing 60, 70 games this season. Now, previously, I've had an opinion that I don't care. These players get paid millions of pounds a year and should play as many games. Physically, they can't. And then we wonder why injuries happen. And we wonder why these players don't perform at the top of the game. Rooney, give you an example. Rooney, at 31, wasn't the player. Maybe 30, wasn't the player that he should have been. If you look at the amount of games that he played, it probably cut the peak years of his career down. Don't get me wrong. He was still a fantastic player. But Rooney, after he was about 28, started to lose that little bit of, not shine, but he lost that little bit of magic that he basically had. I think that was basically down to the fact that he played a lot of games. So I agree with you. I think it would be good for the league. I think it would be beneficial to players. But my only problem, sorry guys, I just need to do that. My only problem here is the fixtures, is the congestion of games. How would you fit in those games? So I do agree that I think these players should have at least a week or two off, and I think that would give these players a rest that they need. So is Yokorezan, is that flops? I do agree. Shesko is utter dog meat, says Football News. If you're on hundreds of thousands a week, why should you be sitting in the house when you're kicking a ball about? And that's what I mean. That's what I mean. There are people who have that opinion. I used to semi-share that opinion, but the problem is, if you want your players to play and you want your team to do well, whether I like it or not, these players cannot. The human body, whether we like it or not, cannot sustain the level that they're on. It is physically impossible. These players are going to get injured. So in my view, if you want your teams to do well, these players need a break. But look, I agree in principle. These players are on millions and millions of pounds a week. They've got to play. Chelsea United, we are dominating once upon a time. Though we're struggling, we will come back. Chelsea will probably come back first because Chelsea have owners who want to progress the club. Chelsea have owners, where they've not probably spent money. I think Chelsea are more likely to come back first. JB, I know and I respect you so much, but I want instant impact. We haven't got £70 million through 3 year projects. Vardy didn't have the players around him at Leicester. Look, mate, I respect the view. People want instant impact. I get that. I do. And I don't disagree with that statement. The problem is we didn't pay for that. If United this is why they wanted an Osimhen. A Delap, that's who was their first choice. That scares the crap out of me. Delap was our first choice. That is who they wanted to sign. I'm telling you now, Delap would have been worse than a Šeško. Osimhen, we looked at him. Gyökeres, looked at him. You look at those three signings. Osimhen, yes, probably the best out of the three. Watkins has been injured. He's only just come back and not been playing well. So look, those were the four that we tried to get. I do agree with you. For £70 million, we should have instant impact. But that's not why we paid the money. And that's not Šeško's fault. You have to blame the club here. You know, Šeško's been here for 4 months. Like it doesn't compute in my brain. If it was Isak, right, niche fan, if it was an Isak, £70 million. Mateta, if you got Mateta for 45, yes. But that's not who we signed. It's not Šeško's fault. Now, my question to you, Niche, would be this. If Šeško started to bang in goals, would you then still consider him a flop? So let's just say if Šeško now started to bang in the goals, first half of the season hasn't set the world on fire, but would you still then say that the kid's a flop? And that's my thing here is that I don't like the word flop because I just think it's so simplistic. The kid's been here for 4 months, and he's a young guy. You know, if Šeško's 24 years old, he's been here for 2 years, fine. Call him whatever you like. I will still not agree on the flop tag, but we don't give these players. I think this fan base is a hypocrite at time because we are clambering for these young players to come through. Like OB, OB for me in his game time, OB is not the answer. We're screaming out to change as a club. We're screaming out to do those things. We're screaming out for youth players. But yet we're not prepared to give a young lad time. Does matter how much you earn as players. You need to rest. I agree with you. You can't teach a donkey to play football, though you could show him all the tactics, the game plan, where to tactically move, but the donkey will never develop. Neves, 150 million max, 3 years plus one. And yeah, I think Neves would take that. I do. He's a journeyman. He's not a United player. Madrid don't like paying money for players, though, and that's true. But £15 million. Look, let's see. If Madrid won't pay the money, I think we need to be in that conversation. The moment I hear if we are in that chat, I will be pleased. No, he just blowing smoke up his arse. Sorry, totally opposed. La Liga and Bundesliga have a break. Šeško deserves 2 seasons. I do agree. Do you think we're getting a midfielder in January window? I'll give you my opinion on that as well. I've consistently said this. I think that it is a Gallagher on loan and or another loan player or zero. Do not believe, and if you go onto channels, bigger channels, who are pushing a Kone. So let's segue to a Kone. Kone is on my list. What you're going to get now is Xerxes goes to Aroma and Kone comes to us. 2 problems with that. Number 1, there is no value in doing play swaps. That's why you don't see the play swaps now. So there is no way United are going to not get money for a Xerxes. There is no way that we're going to do a player swap. Forget it. That is not going to happen. So this rhetoric right now about Xerxes comes and then Kone comes and then we do like a swap deal. Bullshit. It's not going to happen. Ineos will not. That's something that they will not do. Kone has been earmarked for this summer. I would say of all the signings that have been touted around, I would probably go a Gallagher first, and I'm adamant on that. I think Kone could possibly be the other one, but it depends on Xerxes, what happens there, and it depends on the price. I've heard, I'm not going to say too much, but Xerxes is a summer signing. Kone, Baleba, Anderson, forget that one. Walton, Stiller, forget that one. But they're going to be on the list of players. Those are a January deal. United and the rhetoric is still there is no value in the market. They don't do business in the market. Now, yes, Semenyo, they were looking at that deal, but that's a deal that you've got to be there for. Apparently, United are still pushing that deal, but I'm still of the belief that we do Gallagher on loan or an option to buy. Possibly a tiny, tiny ray of light that we go and get an other, but it's only going to be one. It's only going to be one. And it's dependent on whether Xerxes leaves. If Xerxes goes, which I do think he will, it's going to be a cheap deal. I don't understand your point here, Jack, but in terms of performance, it makes it different. Hings12 says playing for United is war. As a fan, we must forget about the Ferguson era. Let's give Amorin time and see a winning Premier team. And I think you're right. You know, I hark back to the Fergie days, not because I'm one of these people that lives in the past. When I go back to that era, it's about the mentality. It's about the mindset. That is what I want to bring through. The Fergie days are done. Fergie days are absolutely done. But if you want to go to war, and if you want to fight, we need to learn those lessons. The same as Ferguson learned the lessons from Sir Matt Busby. Ferguson learned from him. Amorin needs to learn the lessons from the Ferguson era, learn the lessons of the mentality, but do it his own way. I want Amorin to be given time. Look, if we want to win a Premier League, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, and the results are exactly the same. What has been the consistent approach? You hire a manager, you sack a manager. The player power. You bring in the wrong type of player. If we change that, who knows? So look, whether Amorin is the correct guy, if we give him time, who's to say it's not going to work? My caveat to that is this. If Amorin is not going to change in terms of, well, actually, no, I take that back. If you're not going to give Amorin his players, sack him. Because Amorin needs his players. If Amorin, and we will talk about this next, if Amorin doesn't change a system for these players, it's not going to work. So Amorin either has to go against everything he's learned and everything he preaches, or he plays a 4-3-3. If he plays a back three and you don't give him the signings, fucking sack him, because there is no point. But this relies on either you back him with players, or Amorin has to ditch the principles, which I think would be disgusting, because he has to accommodate these players. Meltdown says, hi, hello my friend. It obviously wouldn't work in all fields of work, but you're still playing the game. Yeah. You and that Portuguese friend accent is like when you're talking about your pet, your tongue completely. It's true. Oh, friend. Oh, friends. Oh, Portuguese friends. Oh, come here, Portuguese friends. Bruno. Oh, Bruno. Oh, come here, Bruno. Oh, friends. Delow is our best player. If he goes, I go, says Grace. Grace, don't go, Grace. Stay. Dallo is JB is our club healing. Kelvin is our club healing. I need to be careful how I word this, Kelvin. It's a bit like, I don't want to be, I'm not going to say what I was about to say, but it's almost a bit like if you've got a wound and you're trying to heal that wound, right? It's starting to heal, right? There are certain things that you're doing to it, whereas before we basically had a gaping, dirty wound that just wouldn't heal. We're starting to try to heal that wound, right? But the infection is still there. Unless you get rid of that infection, we're never going to heal. We've still got debt. The Glazers never paid for this club. We've got £1.2 billion of debt. 600 of that is player debt. We've got the Glazers, who are a cancer. Ineos, who have no idea. And until the Glazers and Ineos are removed, we're not going to heal. That wound is never going to heal. You know, you may be able to patch it up. You may be able to survive. But until that infection is moved, we're not going to heal, my friend. A lot of industries close for Christmas. As I've said, you can't compete in all fields yet. I get what you're saying. Compliments of the season to you and your family. Selwyn, mate, we've missed you, buddy. Back at you. Season's greetings to you, Selwyn. Legend, my friend. You become a soldier in the war of politics. Start merely just for money, exactly. Neither Shesko or Gyökeres are banging goals in for fun, so they are both considered flops at such a young age. Gyökeres, for me, if we'd have bought a Gyökeres, I would expect him to be scoring goals. I wouldn't call him a flop still. I would use a different name. But for me, Shesko needs time. Gyökeres shouldn't need time. Gyökeres is in his peak. So Ryan says neither are performing at required levels. I agree with you, yeah. Bruno Fernandes is still consistent till now, says look, Bruno Fernandes, look, the debate can continue. I think we should have sold him. There are many reasons why. I'm not going to go into that as well. But look, I've got no issue with people thinking that he's a fantastic player. I think at times he is. He's getting older. I think unless we replace him and we do something different, yeah. Scott says there should be a max of 150k for wages, and there should be a max of top performing players like Mbappe and Haaland. People get paid less for running countries. They do. Some of our lads can't run for 90 minutes, and it needs to be ruthless. Mason Mount springs to mind for not competing. Look, Mason Mount, whoever. So for every heaven, you get a Mason Mount. Whoever signed that deal off, and by the way, Mason Mount was injured before he came. Whoever signed off that deal should never be allowed to get into football again. Too many head coach labels managers need to manage. Kevin says, we need hungry players with winning mindsets. Shesko has to prove his worth by putting in the work. Let's give Manu more minutes. Ruben Amorim system needs to change. In principle, I agree Ruben Amorim's system needs to change for the players that he's got. There's nothing wrong, in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with Ruben Amorim's system or the tactics. It is the players that he's got. The caveat to that is he didn't know about his players. Ineos should have known about these players. My argument here would be, why didn't they go and hire a 4-3-3 coach? I agree right now that he should tweak his system, but the only reason I think he should tweak his system is because of the limited players that he's got. Nicaruta said, you crack me up with a Portuguese friend. Thanks, mate. I can tell you, no, Putin doesn't get less football. He's one of the richest men in the world. Do you have a rainbow flag? Someone says, I heard about Mctominay could return, to which transfer. Look, Thomas, and again, I'm going to put this to bed. I'm only going to mention this on the stream. McTominay is not coming back. In Naples, he's adored. Napoli do not want to sell him. Napoli would want 70 million plus. No, it's not happening. Don't believe it. Do not believe it. I bring it into the show because I want to dispel these bullshit myths. I want to dispel these myths from bigger channels. I'm not going to put Scott Mack on another thumbnail. It's total and utter bullshit. Ezra is a team in Laos. They won this Fulham 3-2 in pre-season cup. It's pre-season. It doesn't really mean a lot. I'm glad that they beat Premier League team for them, but you know they're not going to compete in the Premier League. I reckon Shesko bags a couple tonight, says Barry. Man City are better, says Fred. Look, Fred, I say this: any team, Liverpool, Arsenal, City, Villa, who say to me City are better, my response to that would be, duh, yes, they are better. I don't know what else you want me to respond to that. Are City better than us right now? Yes, they are. More competent owners, better players. They are better. Thomas says, what do you think of my team, my dream team? Lamens, Dalot, Yoro, Martinez, Shaw, Casemiro, Mount, Ugarte, Cunha, Xerxes, Shesko. I'd say 2-2. Shesko and Cunha are my scorers. Up for Bruno. That is the team that we've got. I think in an ideal world, Xerxes would not be getting into my team, Thomas. Look, again, I'm not disrespecting your team at all, if that's what you think. Xerxes wouldn't be getting into my team. I would put Bruno Fernandes for now in a 10. I wouldn't put Bruno in this team at all. I would get rid of Bruno. I'd get rid of Casemiro. I'd get rid of Mason Mount. I'd get rid of Ugarte. I'd get rid of Xerxes. I'd get rid of Dalot. I'd get rid of Shaw. But this is a team that we've got to play. Xerxes wouldn't get into the team. Mason Mount, I don't class him as a player. I would probably I'd go Bruno 10, Cunha 10, in Burmo. You could have him as a 10. I I'd probably go Shesko and Kone taking turns up front for now. Nicholas says, is the media running out of stories, or has the word got out? We have started a community home of past players and older players. I think, look, just to quote a bigger channel, because I hear it. Bigger channel says, we are the new fucking media. YouTube channels, they are the brand new media, right? The old media are dying, right? If that's true, then guess what? YouTube channels are to blame. The problem is we live in a society of clickbait. The one thing I'm trying to do on this channel is dispel the clickbait. It won't get as many views, but I don't give a shit. YouTube channels are clickbaiting communities. The moment you then listen to a podcast, the moment that you listen to the channel, they basically don't even talk about the clickbait that the thumbnail suggests. The problem, I don't think, is the mainstream anymore. I think the problem are YouTube channels. And I think the biggest one has a lot to blame. I think that if you're looking in this fan base, if you want to be the biggest channel, you've got a responsibility to, and I'm talking about all of the biggest ones, you've got a responsibility to put out things out there that are correct. You've got a responsibility to put out both sides of the coin. You've got a responsibility to tell the truth. And I think it's driven by them. I do. Kevin says, Xerxes slacking, he should leave to better his craft. Is Lissandro fully fit? I think he's getting there. I do. I think he's getting there. I think Scott's right. He's 80%. Max says, Ezra will play Villa. What do you think the score will be? I think Villa will win. Ahmad Mbeumo will wait for the AFCON. Ahmad scored for the Ivory Coast. Okay, Thomas, you meant the team now. Okay, fine. Yeah, fine. Okay, I get it now. Thomas, I thought you meant the team as a whole, right? No, Mason Mount is injured. Bruno is injured. Xerxes, not for me. Aaron says, hello, is you not playing tonight? Yes, they are. Trying to say you wouldn't want 2 million subs. Trying to say you wouldn't want to. Aaron, I'm not saying that I wouldn't, right? But Aaron, what I'm saying is TUS is more about a pantomime. It's more about getting clicks based on not what's fact. From the things that I've seen and the things that I've heard, all they do is they give an opinion, and then the next show they go back on that opinion. You know, they've got children on there who, and in the past, people don't care. But you've got presenters who are presenting the show in a different team's shirt. You know, you've got people who present the show that weren't even fucking born or were very, very young when we were going through the most successful phase. You don't know, like, unless you lived it, unless you lived the 90s, you can look back in books, you can watch the videos. You don't know if you weren't. It's like me trying to talk about the Busby Babes. It's like me trying to talk about Dennis Law. It's like me trying to talk about Best. I can talk about it from an opinion of I've seen the videos. I wasn't there. I didn't live the time. I didn't live the era. I don't know the feeling. You know, you've got a guy from what I can see who is basically in love with his own voice, who's basically in love with his own opinions. He insults the subscribers. And if that's what it means to have that many subscribers, no, I don't want it. I want this channel to do things the correct way. I'm not going to be a Goldbridge. I'm not going to be that guy who puts himself on the thumbnails. I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy who puts my own agenda, my own face before the club. Putting your own face on a fucking thumbnail, making stupid fucking faces, that isn't me. So, Aaron, would it be nice? Yes, because it means that then I've got a career doing this. The reason why, primarily, that I would want a fan base as good as that is because it means that I can then do things in a proper way. It means that I can do things that are legitimate and do things that are right. And not because I'm David Brent, not because I'm this guy who's funny, because I want the channel to be something else. I want the channel to be honest. I want this channel to be true. And I don't want to create a channel that is based on bullshit. That's me. Nick says, I'd much rather come and listen to JB, a real voice of the fans, not listen to the clickbait. Thanks, mate. Why would Ronaldo to retire in the summer after the World Cup? No, Thomas, I think Ronaldo will retire once he scored 1,000 goals. Kelvin says, Lamens, Heaven, Martinez, Yoro, Delo, Manu, Bruno, Ahmad, Cunha, Imbermo, Sesko. TUSR clickbait stand. I'll answer that again. Would you go and report from Old Trafford? Aaron, mate, if this became my career, right, I would do all sorts of things. If I could do this full time, I'd go on tour. I would go to the ground. I would do different sorts of shows. But the problem why I can't is because, number one, the channel doesn't really make cash right now. I don't have the time. I do have a job. But I would do. I would do a show maybe every couple of weeks. I don't mind jumping on a train. I don't mind, but right now, it basically depends on the channel, right? So if this channel gets bigger, the things that I could do, the things that I could bring into the show would be, and I would do things in a completely different way to the bigger channels. How are you feeling about tonight's game, Thomas? How do I feel about tonight's game? We should win. There's no excuses. I am ambivalent about the win. What that means for me is I expecting to win tonight. I'm not going to predict anything other than a win tonight. Nick who says Man United need to come knocking, asking you to be the official YouTube channel. They won't do it, mate. I think I've insulted the Glazers enough. Yeah, they would never hire me. But look, mate, I appreciate the comment. So look, let's get on to Amorin. The whole part of the show I wanted to talk about is this. Look, will Amorin keep a 4-3-3? Now, I want your opinions on this. Will Amorin keep a 4-3-3? Okay. Scott says, I know that for Scott says JB would do it if he didn't live hundreds of miles away. TUS clickbait stand. Now look, if this channel was my job, I would do it. If this channel was my job, I'd go on tour. I'd be able to do different stuff. But right now, as I say, the channel is not at a point whereby I'm able to quit my job. I still work, by the way. So why a real enemy is better than a fake friend? Can you explain to me? Why a real enemy is better than a fake friend? I'll tell you why an enemy is better. I should tell you why an enemy is better than a fake friend. Is because you know where you stand. You know exactly what they are. You know exactly, right? And they will tell you exactly the truth. So the reason why, in some respects, an enemy is better than a fake friend is because an enemy is not going to stab you in the back. You know exactly where you are, and also you know exactly the truth. So I'd rather have an enemy. I wouldn't, rather than a fake friend. And if you gave ideas, JB, like the back of the beginning one I sent you in the email, I do have some ideas. One of the things I do want to do in the new year, Scott, and I know I keep saying this, I want to do a fan show after the game. So I want to bring you guys on. So if you guys want to come on to the show, and I want to do that after the show. So look, I won't do it tonight, but I'll try and set something up for the next game. The idea I gave you in the email called back to the beginning. I'll have to. Oh yes. I think that was the idea whereby you go to the cliff and like you do the like history, right? I do, but I don't have time for that. So I think what we could do in the meantime, I know Scott's keen, Dino's keen. Anybody else is keen, let me know, and I want to set up a show where I get you guys onto the show. And as long as you're prepared to have your face on camera, then we can talk about the game. I want to get your guys' opinion, so it's not just my view. We can do that. So look, let me know, and I'll try and set something up for maybe the next game. Maybe the Leeds game, and maybe we could. You could do it with. Yeah, Scott, mate, that would be awesome. And again, when the channel gets bigger, there's so much stuff I want to do. But yeah, it depends on you guys. It depends on getting more subscribers. So look, get as many people onto the channel as you possibly can. I'd say go and invade other channels' chats, and I'm not talking about like the smaller channels. I'm talking about go and invade the bigger channels' comments and bring them here. You know, that's all I'm saying. Kelvin says Burnley 0, Newcastle 2, Chelsea 2, Bournemouth 1. Forest 1, Everton 2, West Ham 0, Brighton 1, Arsenal 2, Villa 1, United 2, Wolves 1. Is this a desperate move to get Mctominay? Simon, not going on, mate. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen at all. That show could be named Triple Threat featuring Dino and Scott. Like it said, well, if you go to Old Trafford, I can come and do the live show with you. Perfect. We do need to fill the holes in the midfield, but I prefer new players and not shop sold goods. Happy New Year to Simon. So look, let's get on to the Amorin. There's a few things I wanted to say. Look, will Amorin keep a 4-3-3? Now, Amorin did say, and give me your opinion on this as well. Amorin said he's not going to change the system because of the media. Otherwise, the players do not respect him. So Amorin is sort of saying there that he knows he needs to change the system, but there are two main reasons why he won't change the system. Number one is because he doesn't want to do it because the media says, and he's basically saying that if he does that, he's going to lose the respect of the players. And the other reason is because he needed the players to learn the principles first. Now, to go back to the first point and him saying that he doesn't want to change the system because of the media, it will make him look weak. Like, it's bullshit. No, Amorin, these players have down tools the whole season. They're starting to buy into it now because they basically know Ineos have told them, you're here for another 2 years. All the bullshit about the players don't respect you. They didn't respect you at the start of the season. They down tools. There are games whereby the Grimsby game, they didn't want to play the system. So when you're talking about not changing the system for the media, I think that's a very, very naive thing to say, because I know Amorin has to come out and big these players up, but Amorin, these players weren't playing at the start of the season. They didn't want to play the system, and I think Amorin will now change to a 4-3-3. Look, I am not happy about this, and the reason why I'm not happy about this is, look, changing to a 4-3-3, I think, will probably be better for these players. As I said at the start of the season, if Amorin wants to survive, and it's all there, if Amorin wants to survive, he needs to play these players at their own game. Go to a 4-3-3 and say, look, I'm going against the principles. Amorin is going to go against his principles, and I admire that. I really admire somebody that's willing to go against the principles to get the job done. That is what he's doing now. The caveat to that is he bowing down to the players, right? But if Amorin is saying, look, I'm going to change to a 4-3-3 because, look, in the summer, I know you guys are gone, but I am changing to a 4-3-3 because I want to get through the season. I know you guys are weak-minded. I do not trust you. So I'm going to play your limited, low IQ style. That is what I'm going to play. I'm going to offer a different opinion here. Is Amorin playing a 4-3-3? Survival football? I think so. Is Amorin playing this system because he knows in the summer he's stuck with these players? Does Amorin know the reason why he needs to change to a 4-3-3 is because he is stuck with these players? Does he know Casemiro has to stay? Does he know Luke Shaw is staying? Does he know Dalot is staying? Does he know he's not going to get the 2 midfield players that he needs? Does he know he's not going to get a centre-back? Does he know he's not going to get a wing-back? Does he know a striker is not going to happen? My different view is now, will Amorin play a 4-3-3 because he knows he's stuck with these players? Does he know in the summer we're only going to sign 1 or 2 players? And the more I think about it, the more I'm edging towards the latter. Amorin is having to change his style because he knows he's not going to get the players. I think, driven by channels, you lot have been told, and I'm not saying you lot on here, but there is a significant amount of people that have been told, we're going to get rid of 10 players and we're going to get 7 players in. We're going to get these players in and we're going to get 7 players in. How? Ugarte has got a long contract. Herbie says, afternoon JB in the community. Herbie, I hope you're doing extremely well, my friend. 7 of these 10 players are not going to go anywhere. And it's going to be cheaper. And what you've got to think about is you've got to get your mindset into Ineos thinking. It'll be cheaper to keep Casemiro for another year on a reduced wage. It's going to be cheaper to keep Luke Shaw in terms of no one's going to buy him. And maybe you reduce that wage. Maguire, it's going to be cheaper to get him on a new deal. A Dalot, you know. And also, well, we can't sell these players. So there are a couple of factors here. It's going to be cheaper to keep these players that are going to be out of a contract. We can't sell players. I'm starting to figure, and I'm starting to have an opinion, the reason why Amorin will go to a 4-3-3 or a hybrid of a 4-3-3 and stick to it, because Amorin knows we're not going to sign as many players as some of you think that we are. So I just want to keep that thought in mind. Alternatively, well, has Amorin just been stubborn in keeping with the back three? Or has it taken him 18 months or not a year to figure out what this team is? If that is the case, it baffles me as to why it's taken a Premier League coach a year to figure out this team. Has he been naive, hoping that he could get a tune from these players? Stubbornness? And now when we think about, he's only changed to a hybrid or changed to a 4-3-3 because he's stubborn. He knows this team is shit. He knows this team is not great. He knows this is a mishmash of players. Has he only been stubborn now? And now they have bought into him. He's now going to change to a 4-3-3. And yeah, that's pretty much. I think it's an interesting debate to have. I think Amorin will keep a 4-3-3. In my humble opinion, I want him to stick with a back three now. And the reason why I say that is because you're bowing down to these players. You're bowing down to these players again, and has player power. The question here is this: if Amorin goes to a 4-3-3, is it smart of Amorin? Because he's going to say, look, I'm going to show you guys these players can't even play a 4-3-3. Or is it weakness? Is it weakness because he's bowing down to players? Is it player power again? Is it the fact that he's been told by the club that he has to go back to a 4-3-3? Those are the questions I want you to get into your mind and stuff. So look, guys, I'm going to go. Fantastic show. I'm going to do a watch along tonight. So hopefully you can join me for the Wolves game tonight. I'm expecting a win. Before I go, let me read some of your chats. Simon says, we are trying to juggle with what's left of the squad. We have 3 in the AFCON and the rest are cropped. We are cooked. Chris Brett says, Ramos. Vale says, do you play Football Manager? I used to, but I don't have time now. Ramos and Casemiro linking up again. Now, look. Come on, Chris. I respect the opinion. I respect your view. Look, I respect your view, and I give you a platform to give you your opinion. Come on, Chris. A 40-year-old Ramos and a 35-year-old Casemiro. What are we? Are we a serious club? Or are we a club for pensioners? Someone says, I just wonder who's going to be the first player to come in. We have had enough players to choose from. It's like a tub of quality street. And we leave out the ones that we don't like. Amorin knew what he was signing up for, though. The job at United is like climbing a mountain without the right gear. Nicarucci, agreed. Completely agree with you. There are 2 things that play for me here. Is Ineos. Why would you go and sign a manager that plays a back three? And Amorin, look, Amorin didn't have to, but if someone come and ask you about this job, you're not going to say no, are you? So look, I do agree with you. I think Amorin was very, very naive, and this is why I respect Pep and Jurgen Klopp, especially Klopp. We offered him the job, and Klopp went, "Nah, mate, nah." So look, I think you've got a point. We should try to get one of those Brighton midfielders as well. If we stick to the formation tonight, we better beat Wolves. Great stream as always, says Simon. Thanks, buddy. Ladies, mate, I feel the worst for tonight with this lot. Very, very honest of him. Look, Herbie, I expect a win tonight. And the reason why, Herbie, I expect to win tonight is because I want to hold this team accountable. Not necessarily because I think that we'll win tonight. I want to hold these players accountable tonight. So this is why I'm going to predict the win tonight, is because I want to hold these players accountable. And if we don't win tonight, get Rashi back as well, says Chris. So look, guys, I'm going to go. Fantastic show. Happy New Year to you as well, Sean. Chris says 3-0 tonight. And guys, I cannot tell you this enough. I genuinely mean this. Without you guys, this channel doesn't exist, right? This is why I will always give you, as long as I can, I will always give you a platform. I will always read out your views. Interaction on here is very, very important to me. Just because I have my opinion doesn't mean that I'm right. Just because you have your opinion doesn't mean that you're right. It just means that we come together as a community, and this is what this is. This is a community. I'm not the epitome of this community. I don't believe my opinion is better than yours. We have a different view. We come together and we offer up opinion. And this truly is a show about opinions. Look, guys, Chris says, I've got the best opinion. Like, Chris, mate, I'm not gonna disagree with people. If you value your opinion, I actually admire people who stand by their opinions. It's no problem at all. So look, come in your opinions. If you've got staunch opinions, if you've got opinions, you know, that are baked into your brain and you're going to stand by them, respect it. Respect it. I would rather you guys have your opinions and you're going to stick to that opinion rather than flip-flop, right? I think having those opinions, sometimes it changes my mind as well. So look, guys, I'll be back tonight. Fantastic community. I love the show. You guys are the best. You are legends. I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the likes. Hopefully you can join me tonight for the watch along. I'll probably be on about 7:45, 8 o'clock, ready for the 8:15 kickoff tonight. Let's get a win. Let's get a win tonight. No excuses tonight. Let's get a win. So look, guys, thank you so much. Have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. There's actually no flip-flopping on here. I'll be back tonight. So look, guys, thank you for watching. I'm JB. This is the United Devil channel. I'll see you tonight. Take care.